Lauren Boebert is a massive embarrassment to her district, to her state, but also mainly to herself. And I like to see that reflected in how people treat her. She had an opportunity to be a serious legislator, and she decided immediately upon entering Congress that she wasn't gonna do that. And some have had enough of her BS. So apparently at one point she'd been putting forward a ton of amendments that were also BS. She had one though, apparently, that turned out to be reasonable, according to a Democrat, a chair of the committee that she was in. But he blocked it from going to the House floor anyway, and a Republican committee member wanted to know why. And this Democrat, McGovern, says, "We have a new rule in the Rules Committee. If you're bat-s crazy, you're not getting an amendment. I'm sorry, we're not doing this. We're not doing this. I'm not going down that road. I'm not gonna be part of any effort to legitimize people who are effing lunatics." We don't know what the amendment actually was, and neither McGovern's nor Boebert's office want to comment on this. Sort of understandably, this is coming out in a book, by the way. But apparently, McGovern had long said that he believed that you, even if you're in the minority, you deserve to have an airing of your views. But he eventually modified his position after the January 6th riot. And Jayar, I'm gonna admit I'm a little bit torn in that I love to see awful people get mocked. I think that they deserve it, and sometimes it's the only weapon we have against them. But at the same time, I also kind of want to incentivize her to do reasonable, rational things. So maybe let that one forward. Like if she does do something reasonable, you can't block it just on principle. I don't even know if that's the right word, but what do you think?
Or I guess based off of her history. I mean, it happens in many other realms of life. You have a record, you have a track record. And so it's hard to really believe anything that you say is based in any kind of reality or even that you really believe in it. There's always some kind of ulterior motive, and it always goes back to probably serving Donald Trump. So I get that that's the thought. So maybe it requires more analysis of what they're trying to do, looking deeper into it, finding third or fourth level to it, see who she's spoken with, just figure out what those connections are made. And I think in many cases you'll see it's probably not very complicated. It's not like this is an intelligent approach. So you will be able to find it immediately. And in this, maybe in this case, there wasn't much connected, and it is a normal move. But I also get not wanting to legitimize someone who then after they get that one moment of legitimacy, then they take it and go crazy and go, see that I'm totally like one of these reputable members of Congress when they're just not. But as far as when it comes to normal procedure, yeah, you got to go with it.
Yeah, I get it. I get not wanting to legitimize, but
it can't become the precedent, because then it could happen the other way it goes. And I know this is a very establishment Democrat thing to say. It's like, but then if we do it, then they'll do it when they're in power. I hate that. I hate it. But at least as long as it's still within the rules and normalcy of life. Sure.
Yeah.
And it can still be a differentiation between if they do it based off of wild things. We talked about impeachment earlier, or just normal procedures.
Yeah. Let's also be reasonable in the opposite direction, in the direction you might assume would be reasonable, in that this is not setting a precedent. Very often you don't get to have your amendment be voted on. Very often you don't let your bill get voted on. By the way, no matter what we do, the Republicans are gonna go back to what they've always done. There's not gonna be a vote on the Green New Deal. Like it's not gonna happen. They're not gonna allow it to be put forward. So this is like, we can say maybe we don't like the way McGovern communicated about this. It's not unprecedented. Let's be very clear about that.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.